This is meant for Highlander fights and duels with another person. Maybe you're fighting a troop of 10 people with 10 people at most. Like, you're not creating shield walls to protect yourself with this little buckler. Like everyone has like massive shield, and you got this little bitty right here. I'm holding on my hand right now the oldest Bronze Age weapon that can be the earliest sword you can think of. It's broken, of course, but this is the oldest form of sword we can think of. It was a side piece. Hello friends, and welcome back to the Bordeaux Show, and today we are continuing our talk about armor, because previous video I just talked about overly general things about what the different styles of armor can you find in, for example, games such as DND and many other role-playing games that are heavily inspired by DND. Of course, today this topic is kind of complicated, especially around DND, but let's think about it more broadly, about role-playing games in general and games in general. How we integrate weapons and armor in games to keep the authenticity and keep the idea going, because that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do we implement the mechanics of armor and weapons as faithfully as possible in our games, be it video games or more tabletop RPGs? I dress up in my brigandine coat of plates armor in the scorching heat, so please leave a like to make my suffering worthwhile, because I'm burning up, but I'm still doing my best for you, dear viewer. Again, before going into the video, talking about the whole idea and philosophy behind armor, behind weapons, and how we can try to integrate it, please, I beg of you, watch my other video. I have 37,000 subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing, but most of my videos get barely 1,000 or 2,000 views, and I put my heart and soul in each one of them. And if you might not be interested in one topic, try it. Maybe I might manage to make you interested in it, because if you like history, if you like mythology, and if you like fantasy, this is the place for you. I love making topics about specific things that other YouTubers don't cover or don't cover to my satisfaction, so I often talk about niche topics that interest me. So I don't want to become overly generalized. I want to still talk about niche topics that really are cool for me, and I would really appreciate if you gave it a watch. Alright, continuing, going back to the topic, armor, weapons. How do we integrate it? One of the things that I didn't mention about D&D armors, that's where the inspiration came to me, that I played the role-playing games such as D&D, such as Worlds Beyond Number, and many others, especially made by my friends, and I even made my own. I haven't translated it in English, but it's a Georgian fantasy, historically and folklore-inspired world, where I try my best to integrate all the cool things I find in historical armor, weapons, how they interact with one another, especially in more unique and interesting ways. That's, unfortunately, I don't think it's translated in media, especially in video games, where you are supposed to be transported into the world of swords and sorcery. And of course, sorcery gets a lot of leeway because magic is more based on your imagination, but weapons, armor, Middle Ages itself gets a lot of overgeneralized, wrong ideas, and many mishmashy things get smooshed together, and the fantasy genre is really, because of that, detached from actual history and actual mythology and folklore. That's what I try to reintegrate, because fantasy to me becomes too incestuous, where all the new fantasies just reference older fantasy, that reference older fantasy, that reference older. Like, this is an Ouroboros eating itself. So nothing original, nothing new ideas don't come into picture, and especially the stupid ideas, for example, that D&D perpetuates, get reinterpreted. All right, again, mechanics. How do we integrate more realistic mechanics about armor and weapons? First things first, as I'm an armorer through and through, that's my passion, that's my dedication, I would like to explain some few things that games like D&D and many others fail to understand. The concept of AC, armor class, I don't understand what is it truly based on, because usually it's interpreted that a weapon, someone hits you with a mace, for example, if you rolled, I don't know, 15 or lower, because I would say I'm wearing full plate, but someone would say it's half plate or this plate or that plate. All right, let's say 16 AC. Someone rolled a 15, like, I don't know, 10 plus 5. Oh, now attack misses me, because my armor class is 16, and somehow because my armor class is 16, weapon doesn't even connect it. Okay, it's... Oh, goddamn. Someone might say that it is the DM's responsibility to create a world where all these attacks either is deflected or the armor absorbs it. But in reality is that armor doesn't reflect or deflect attacks. Armor actually is basically a second skin, a tougher hide that actually is supposed to absorb damage and not let your inner squishy self get hurt. So when I am hit with a mace, I am still as likely to be hit, maybe even more likely, because maybe I'm not as good at dodging and moving around. When I'm wearing something heavy such as this, I am going to get hit. But my armor, because it's made out of iron underneath or steel underneath and leather over it, it will absorb the damage. But harder and harder and harder I hit myself, more and more likely that not all of the damage gets absorbed and some of it goes through me. That's how armor works. And of course, weapons such as this, maces, clubs, pikes, axes, are specifically designed to go through or negate armor. So I might get hit with a club or a mace. It might not damage the armor itself, but the force and blunt trauma might go through the armor and dent the armor and dent me inside. That is the functionality of heavy weapons such as mace. I don't understand why clerics get mace, because mace is a warrior's weapon, especially for the elite who are fighting other warriors in armor. If you're not wearing armor and if you're not going up against armored opponents, mace is not a good weapon for you. That's another thing. Going to weapons. Each weapon is designed to go through different armor types and different types of warfare. So a mace is specifically designed for the elite warriors to bludgeon each other and hopefully not kill, so they can then ransom each other. So I'm a knight, I'm a rich knight, or maybe even a merchant son who wants to become a warrior, and I am fighting in the droves with a lot of low-class soldiers that I will just let others kill, but I see another knight. It's my responsibility to slay the other knight, the other castle's lord or other noble's son, but he's still my cousin. So I want to beat him up, but hopefully not kill him, hopefully ransom him later to his family, maybe his weight in gold or something like that. So I will be focused to break through his expensive armor that most people don't have and damage him inside and incapacitate him so he cannot fight anymore. This is one of the things a lot of video games and tabletop games should implement. Why am I a player not being killed as soon as I fall down? Because everyone sees you as a bargaining chip. If you have expensive armor, maybe you stole that armor, they don't know. If you have expensive armor, that means you have ransomable family or ransomable friends. Maybe even your adventurers guild pays out ransoms for the players that get captured, or your friends have to ransom you out. So most people wouldn't want to kill you, want to enable you so you're not able to fight, but then take you out. And if you're actually going out to kill someone, mace isn't the perfect weapon for it. You can have swords, you can have spears, especially those that are focused on piercing armor. Again, most people didn't wear armor. Alright, going back to the armor. How do we implement it in the mechanical sense? Of course, when you're trying to add the details, more realistic details, then it becomes complicated. Like, okay, plate armor has this benefit that stops all different types of weapon attacks, but what about chainmail, the most common type of armor? So chainmail is of course great at protecting you against slashes, but again, piercing weapon might easily go through holes and maybe not give you as thick of a slash, but it still will pierce your skin. And of course, as humans, we really don't like bleeding. Even a tiny cut might be detrimental to our health. So these are the basics that you need to think about. Armor itself absorbs damage. That's its main purpose. Not to negate it, not to redirect it. The redirecting hits is the goal of a shield. Shield is not armor. Why is it treated as armor? I do not understand. It's a defensive weapon. You are deflecting attacks. You are absorbing it with your shield. You are negating it so it doesn't come into contact with your body. Maybe with your hand, but usually it has padding. This is the weapon that deflects attack. Armor absorbs attack. But each armor has its own limit. So, if going back to game mechanics, okay, you hit the armor. Let's say you rolled 16, you hit me, so I take, I don't know, you roll and it comes out to 5 damage. Where do you hit me with that 5 damage? That's the idea. Alright, I've argued about this topic many times before with the commenters, so leave down your ideas, how you interpret these rules, but usually I've been told that, oh, you're being hit in your weak spots, for example, your armpits, your groin, the parts where armor isn't protecting. How many groin shots can you take? I don't know. I've taken 1 damage in either my sleeves or armpits or even groin, and I'm not ready to fight. I can take a lot of hits around my body, even the parts that aren't armored, but you know, every hit that only hits in your groin, my God. That could be considered as a sneak attack. You know, like rogues typically have the sneak attack. Sure, like a person might decide that I'm going to target your weak points, your joints, your places where your lacing goes through, or places where armor isn't protected. Sure, but a typical club attack, or someone like a barbarian swings an axe and hits, does he hit me here? Does he constantly hit me in the weak spots? Or does it hit me where my armor is? If you think about it, as I mentioned before, armor doesn't take all the damage. So, again, bludgeoning weapon specifically designed to hit me. Let's say this bludgeoning weapon can deal 5 damage. My armor can absorb, let's say, 3, and 2 damage gets absorbed by me. Of course, there is no such thing as damages, blah, blah, blah. 1 hit from a regular weapon can take out the greatest fighter if it's hit in a vital spot, or pain itself might take you out. So humans don't have hit points. We just try to turn our experiences into numbers and into mechanics. So it's not just like, oh, you got hit once, oh, you're dead. You know, some humans can take more hits, some humans can take less hits. Same person can be hit different spots with different results, you know? So even in the fact that you are turning into numbers, you can say that armor is specifically designed to absorb damages. So let's say if you have 10 AC as a general, regular walking around human, with armor I might have 9 AC because I'm slightly inconvenienced. Of course, if it's a properly made armor that fits to you, I'll get to that part later. So in this new version, we might say that I have 9 AC, the ability to avoid it, but my armor has the ability to absorb, let's say, 5 points of damage. So it's technically, armor is technically additional pool of HP rather than actually protecting you from the hit. So let's say if this weapon deals 3 damage, I feel nothing. 4 damage, I feel nothing. 5, okay. And 6, oh my God, I actually felt that damage. 1 point went through. Alright, you can think about it in different ways. You can reimagine it mechanically, but the way, for example, DND plays it out, it's really bugs me. Another point I often see misrepresented about armor is what is armor itself. I mentioned before, under armor, such as padding, in D&D for example, is presented as its own type of armor that gives you 1 AC, and it gives you disadvantage in stealth, which is completely absurd. I've made a video dedicated about padded armor. This is where I started making videos about that specific little tribes and annoyances I had with D&D's mechanics. Padded armor absorbs sound. Of course, I wouldn't say it gives you advantage in stealth, but a padded armor is a coat, a thick coat of cloth. It absorbs sound, not creates it. A leather might create squeaking sounds depending on what type of leather it is, or cracking sounds, or like plates moving around. And chainmail, of course, and metal armor makes a lot of sound. But not everything makes sound. For example, what I'm wearing right now is called brigandine, or coat of plates. So it's leather on top and plates underneath. While I move around, I can always tell that makes this thing. You can see, like, moving around, it doesn't make a lot of sounds, other than people groaning, seeing me walking around like this. There are types of armor, especially plate armor, that when you move around make a lot of sound because plates are jumping around, clanking and clanking together. But there are types of armor that are specifically designed to absorb or muffle the sound. And another thing is padded armor can be made of many different materials, many different thicknesses. You can make a padded armor, like giving padded armor like 1 point of protection. I don't think that is right, because there are so many different types of armor that provides more or less protection. Okay, let's say a peasant's crudely made padded cloth armor could be considered to be +1 because its main purpose is to protect you from scrapes, bruises, branches, falling down. Like, it will not stop an arrow or a spear, but it will protect you from wear and tear from being alive, because your skin is really soft and easily damaged even by the environment around you. You don't need to go into battle to get scrapes and bruises. But a quality made padded armor could protect you from actual slashes, could protect you from actual arrows, and even like reinforced glue armor, or like nailed armor, or different styles of armor such as a linothorax. As you know, like Greek hoplites used to wear them. That might actually be a medium type of armor that doesn't protect you from everything, but it's decent enough to be on par with plate armor. Of course, not as good, but more or less. Like, if you're giving points to everything, I would say linothorax would be something like 14 AC. But again, I don't like the idea of ACs in general. Armor doesn't avoid damage, it just absorbs it. Another grievance I have with armor, of course I love armor, I talk about it a lot. You can check out my specific videos I made about each topic, is leather. Leather is seen as like a leather or studded leather, or like barbarian battle rager armor with spikes. I've made dedicated videos on each of those topics, but to summarize it, leather is not a type of armor. Leather is a material. You can have a thin leather for clothing, you can have a thick leather for belts and different items. You can have combinations of leather and metal, different mesh combinations. But the main purpose is that you can make scales out of it, you can make plate out of it, you can make many different armor, especially padded armor. Padded armor and leather armor are not two different things. Padded armor is a style of armor, leather is a material. So you can make a leather padded armor by, implementing furs and felts, combining together to create a cushioning effect. Of course, I mentioned many times before, wool to be another agent to be a good quality armor. So you can make leather armor to be many different types of armor. Many different games actually include these types of options. It's seen that in games you can interact and include many such different mechanics, because in tabletop role-playing games you don't need to put so many different ideas in your head. But I think that's bullshit. Some players might not be able to, some players might not be focused on this, but many players are interested in exploring different types of armor, costumes, decorating, designing their characters to have interesting armor, interesting weapon. Most people just focus on weapon, just say, oh, it's a shiny sword, that's enough. But swords aren't for everything. Swords aren't the be-on and end-all for weapon. Swords can be great, but usually they're not the main. I would not go on a quest with a sword. I would go on a quest with a spear, with a hammer, with an axe, but last thing I would take is a sword, because it's not for everything. Sword is a status of nobility. It's a status for a wealthy warrior, and it's a symbol of wealth, it's a symbol of power, but the main purpose of it is self-defense. Someone would carry a sword in streets, in meetings, walking around in the street where bandits might come in, or dueling with one another. They will not go into battle with a sword. That is stupid. Some battles were fought sometimes with swords, but that's usually not the case. For example, with gladius, with shield and sword combination, Viking warriors wielding their shields or swords, and I'm holding on my hand right now the oldest Bronze Age weapon that can be the earliest sword you can think of. It's broken, of course, but this is the oldest form of sword we can think of. It was a side piece. The main weapon, again, even going back to the Bronze Age, main weapon was the axe or the spear. Axe, again, throwing axe, what you want to call it, and a spear. Spear is a ranged weapon that everyone, even the high martial elite and the regular foot soldier, can use to thrust, to slash, to pierce, and to throw. And the axe has the benefit of being able to put so much force into it that can break some sort of a armored up warrior. Axe can go through it. Maybe even some spears that have really thin points that can put a lot of force in one space and go through it. So swords are not the weapons for going on quests if you're not walking around in a tavern just showing off your wealthy weapons that you have. It's spears, it's axes, and other weapons. All right, I've mentioned this topic many times before, but weapons and armor interact with each other. Armor is meant to defend from a weapon, and weapon is meant to go through the armor. Each type of weapon has main three types of damage: bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Some weapons have combinations of two, some weapons specialize in both, neither, some, but these are the main types. So interacting with one another is very important. Also, going through armor, I've talked about a lot about armor today. I can talk more and more endlessly. Last thing I want to mention about armor is the ability of the armor to protect yourself. How much can it protect? Like in DND, for example, I've used in DND as a something that I assume most of you know. The maximum armor can take is 20 AC, where a, I don't know, regular goblin with a pointy stick with 1d4 damage has the ability to hit you. Let's do a rough draft. He has +5 to hit, and the dice goes up to 20. Maybe, let's say, blah blah blah. I don't know, a 5 to 10% chance to still hit you. Even if, okay, I have many weak points and joints and many other parts can be exploited, but a fully high medieval Gothic armor might not even have a place where a dagger can slip through. Not to mention the shit-covered stick that Goblin uses to poke at his enemies. So there's a limitation where armor can protect. Usually you would see like Gothic full protective armor. They usually lose shields. But before they lose shields, it's usually a combination of these two. Someone like me, who has armor but still has many weak points to protect, would still carry a shield, protect from main blunt attacks, maybe, and armor would be for everything that slips through my protection. Still, I would use a shield to protect myself from most attacks. But if I'm wearing a high medieval Gothic blah 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 armor, that you can tell that I'm really not a fan of those kinds of armor that became too generic and too popularized. I like more niche styles of armor. I'm a hipster of armor, god damn it. Usually shields are still useful, but again, in D&D and many such games, shields are just generically I don't know, +2 protection. +2 protection for this and this. So both of this is a more buckler style Georgian shield, and this is more drop shaped Byzantine style shield. Both gives you +2 protection, and just gives you +2 protection, forgetting about all the things that shield actually can do. Shield's main purpose is not just to be there statically giving you like some light protection. It's actually the weapon that you use actively to deflect attacks, to even punch someone in the face, and to navigate it with your main weapon and your protective weapon. Shields are weapons that can be used to protect. Again, a sword can be used to stop a slash or an attack, but swords are not meant to stop attacks. They can break, they can damage, but if you have a shield, you can stop it and then stab. You can tell I'm not much of a fighter. I'm more of a crafter than a fighter. But the idea is that some shields, like bucklers, are meant to be held in a distance with actively trying to stop an opponent's weapon. So this is great against dueling when you're facing one opponent in front of you. So you can use it as a protection from upcoming attacks. But if you're in a battle with arrows raining down on your head and you need to protect yourself casually, something like this, especially when you're riding a horse, would be great to actively protect yourself from upcoming attacks. But there's a bit of a crack here, but this is your typical upright shield. And now you can tell me, technically, according to DND rules in many such games, all these are only 2 AC, or give me +2 protection. Is this realistic? Like, benefits of smaller shields is that this is really large and really difficult to move around in a life or death situation. Oh, I got them. Something like this is more comfortable to wield in a battle, but this one gives you the most protection. So this is the most protective but hardest to use. This is the least protective but lightest to use, and this is in the middle. So all of them are technically +2. But the main thing about shields to remember, especially if you're making games or making things, be it with magic, without magic, is each of them serves a purpose. These small buckler shields are not meant to go into like shield formations, right? This is meant for Highlander fights and duels with another person. Maybe you're fighting a troop of 10 people with 10 people at most. Like, you're not creating shield walls to protect yourself with this little buckler. You know, like everyone has like massive shield, and you got this little bitty right here. You know, each gives its own benefits to different situations. This is specifically meant for horse riding with the drop shape, so it's easily moved around. A rounder shield, I don't have enough hands to bring the rounder shield over, is more comfortable maybe in a different formation. This large Roman legionary shield is great in like turtle formations or like highly protective formations, but of course finding yourself in a duel with someone with such a buckler would be much beneficial than finding yourself in a duel with a massive thing like this. So each item that you carry and each item that you implement in your story, in your world, in your mechanics, has to be in a context of the world. Why are they holding it? Why are they using it? This, something like this would be great for a assassin, someone who goes in a one-to-one fights. This would be great for someone who goes into a battle on a horse or an individually, and this would be great shield, large shield like this if you're going into 10 or 20 or 100 people with similar shields in a one square formation to protect yourself as maximum as possible. So if you even have a shield big as this, you don't really even need armor like this. But if you have a buckler and an armor, would be really beneficial. So I think each of them could be a combination. You could say, like, even if you're keeping DND rules, okay, 20 for full plate armor, maybe, but maybe 18 with this armor. Like, okay, it's not even 20. As I remember, D&D having full plate of armor is 18 plus. So with a shield that is +2, you have 20. But I would say that even if you're keeping D&D mechanics, full plate armor with joints covered with chainmail and every bit and every detail covered, you would be 20. And a shield will not give you any benefits, because a typical European medieval high rich knight with like not even a needle that could go through their plate armor didn't carry around shields because there was no use for it. Someone who is like plated but not every joint and every detail is covered maybe would get benefits from even something like shield. A buckler would be like +1 but has like offhand use, maybe some benefit, maybe some deflective ability, maybe like one of the unfortunate things in D&D and many such RPGs where magic is more of a focus, martial prowess characters who are trained in fighting with different weapons and different items are shafted with like only slash, and that's it. Only like, okay, your DM or your game can give you many animations or many variations with the slash, but slash does one thing. There is no shield and sword use and combination and protection. Of course, some games, good games, often cover this, but again, D&D often neglects this part, that each item, even in a shield, can have its own personal benefit that can't be overstated. I don't know, one of the forgotten uses of such large shields, okay, maybe I'll put down so many items that I have in my hand. Please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall. Would actually be with a crossbow. So, I'm not gonna load this, but during crossbow warfare, that is, again, another forgotten part of medieval history, especially on the big screen, even in video games, is that when crossbowmen had to reload, they needed protection. So crossbowmen had large shields like this. They would place it on the ground with like stands to protect it. They would hide behind their shields, load their weapon, and poof, fire again. So hide behind. And if the army is coming, again, armies are not individual soldiers swinging weapons. Crossbowmen are sitting in the protected fields away from people with swords and spears and pointy things. They are firing from a distance. Oh, the horse rider's coming. Okay, let's grab our shields. Hop, 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 hop. Let's get into a more defensible position. Put the shield down. Again, crouch down, reload, and fire again. Sorry, I'm really not flexible right now. And that is one of the many interesting details that get overlooked because fantasy media, be it games, be it stories, often rely on reusing and rehashing other story ideas, inspiring each other, becoming Ouroboros. No new ideas are coming to be. Let's say, again, I'm ranting, it's a long video already. You are a mage. You're a mage and you sling spells, pew, 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 and a fireball, pew, 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 I don't know. You might not be able to wear armor. That's another thing. Everyone can actually wear armor. Even the weaklings, even the smaller or skinnier people, there would be less metal to protect you, so it would be lighter. Armor that is perfect for me takes a lot more metal and is much more heavy than armor that is great for someone who is much skinnier than me. I'm like 120 kilograms right now, and there are people that half my weight, so they would necessarily wear half the weight of armor that I have. So, again, rent aside, again, let's say you're a mage, you sling spells, now you sometimes need to recharge your mana or something. Maybe you have a squire, maybe you have a typical assistant boy or like page, whose job is to carry this like anti-magic shield that when you're done firing spells, okay, come in, Mr. Wizard, hide down, hook another spell, and whoop, swing it over. Maybe you have like a bunch of potions and standing, just swinging it over. Okay, like this is the great thing about actually learning history when you're a fan of fantasy storytelling. You can get more inspirations from actual historical texts than you can get from rehashing many tried fantasy tropes. So this is one of the biggest points of my channel, to share those ideas with you and promote more creativity and inspiration in the field of fantasy. What else? I always start ranting, go into so much passionate speech, and forget many details to add. All right, is there anything else? Okay, here's another idea. Again, beautiful Georgian Weapons Museum. Again, if you come to Georgia, please visit this place, Sioni 8, next to the Sioni Church in the Karvasla. Visit. So, again, another topic to talk about, guns. Boom, boom. Made a video about it. Check it out. So, blunderbusses, many other weapons are often difficult to include in fantasy storytelling, where it's considered to clash and contrast with medieval aesthetics and vibes. And I've made a video dedicated about this topic, that around 12th or 14th century, we already see firearms introduced into the world, and especially Europe around 14th to 16th century, everyone had firearms already. But one of the things that I don't like is that they treat firearms as just another weapon and not a special class on its own who specializes in gunpowder manufacture and weapons that deal with gunpowder. I would say that someone who uses gunpowder in a fantasy setting would be closer mechanically to a spell slinger than to a fighter, because they are not trained to fight, they're trained to use flammable materials to accelerate different small or large objects against their enemies. So if you think through that logic, you can make a lot of assumptions like use gunpowder instead of spell slots, use different items such as explosives, smoke bombs, fireworks, many other things that rely on gunpowder as just real-world spell equipment. So rather than cast fireball, you cast Molotov cocktail. Rather than cast firebolt, you create a gunpowder flare. Rather than, I don't know, cast power word kill, cast power word boom. So, okay, I've been ranting for a while. Thank you if you stick by my crazy rants. I have more rants to come, more ideas to come. I just wanted to share my many thoughts running around in my head. One of the things before we end this video I would like to mention is to please again check out my other videos, I beg of you. And also I would like to ask for your support on Patreon, for your support. Many others are supporting as well. And hopefully in the future I'm planning to open an Etsy shop where I can sell a bunch of stuff that I already made and or are planning to make, so I could have some more revenue to make cooler and better things. Because YouTube is a harsh mistress, and I've said it many times, I put a lot of work and energy into each of my videos, and many of them don't get the love that I think they deserve. So, thank you. Really appreciate you watching the video, and please watch my other content. Please.